Deadly Tarantula Girl coming to you from my private serpentarium. Tonight, bringing you a reptile video. This will be a ball python breeding video. I'm hoping to capture their pairing on camera, but if not, I will do what I most often do, which is where I just cohabitate the pair for a few days. This is my male. This is a black pastel orange ghost, and I'm going to be pairing him with my piebald female. This guy is a really nice size, and he's been an epic breeder in the past. He usually doesn't waste any time, which is why I'm thinking that we might actually capture a pairing on film. This is his tank. I'm going to introduce her to him tonight for the first time, and we'll see what happens. So here is my beautiful black pastel orange ghost male. This is his enclosure, and I'll talk a little bit about some of my breeding practices and substrate, but I will do that while these two snakes get to know each other. This tub goes in a rack system. He's not used to being able to just climb right out at the top of this. Ball pythons are not snake eaters, so I never really worry about cannibalizing in ball python breeding like I would in king snake breeding or a few other species. They can hurt each other, but for the most part this is a docile species, and I'm not majorly concerned about injury from one animal to the other, so I feel that this is a fairly risk-free pairing. It's pretty low-key. I know a lot of people, when they breed snakes, tend to put their male in their female's enclosure, and I like to do the opposite, because in my experience what I have noticed is that the males are the ones to initiate the pairing, and they are the ones to essentially lock that female and make the delivery, I'll say that. And often when you put a male in a female's enclosure, you encounter the problem of the male being so occupied with being curious about his new habitat that he actually wastes a whole lot of time and energy just sort of exploring his new enclosure, which he's kind of doing right now since I have him out of his rack system. We might just put their tub away and see what happens. But I also feel fairly adamant about using disposable substrate because I feel like it's the most hygienic, and in my experience most reptiles are not typically happier in a beautiful naturalistic enclosure. Now if I had one snake or just 10 snakes, I probably would have very extravagant naturalistic enclosures, but since I am taking care of hundreds, sometimes over 1,000 in a week, reptiles and invertebrates, I find disposable substrate to be the most hygienic and therefore the most safe for my animals. And I personally like newspaper because it's pretty mold resistant, and I feel like it's good for the environment because I recycle used newspapers. Instead of buying animal substrate and then just throwing it away, I'm actually recycling newspapers. And so that's something that I can feel pretty good about and feel like my animals are safe and I'm doing a tiny little thing to help the environment. I've been in your waters. This is a pair of corn snakes that I have that I really like. The ball pythons weren't doing anything too impressive, so I've rehoused them together. And I've tried a couple of other species. Nobody really did anything too impressive, so I decided to pair these corn snakes. The large bright one is my male ogati and the darker one is the female. And oh, look at that. So it looked like he was kind of twitching, which is why we decided to go ahead and turn the cameras on. And she is, it looked like she twitched once. That might have just been me being hopeful. Now you might notice that the substrate is a little bit dirty. And I decided to go ahead and keep them on his bedding that he's been on throughout the week, because having fresh bedding kind of makes them feel like they're out of their natural environment that they're comfortable in. And so obviously this will be cleaned after they're separated, but I'm already seeing some natural breeding behavior that I wasn't seeing in the other species, and I think that's because for the sake of filming a nice pretty video, I was making sure they were on brand new bedding. And so I don't know what's gonna happen here, but we might see a love connection. This is the wackiest, most aggressive corn snake I've ever known. I mean, it's a corn snake, so really that's no big deal. But he's known for being kind of feisty and temperamental. One of our employees is pretty afraid of him, which I think is funny, but he is kind of a wackadoo. So she's acting like a corn snake and just relaxing, and he's being a little bit silly. So we'll just watch them for a few minutes and see what happens.
I could be the one who saved you from this place. We could be as one and we'll escape. We could run away, we don't gotta stay. I can feel it, it burns inside me. Take away the pain, we can go insane. I can feel it, it burns inside me. Burns inside me. Burns inside me. Burns inside me. I won't let you down.
So this is exactly what we want to see. Actually just saw some activity in his nether regions. All this jerking and intertwining, those are mating type behaviors. And so what you will want to see is see how she's lifting her tail. That's actually kind of an invitation, and you'll just see the ends of their tails kind of intertwine. It's snake breeding is pretty docile for the most part. It's not a lot of locomotion, but once you see their tails lock up, then it's just subtle motion after that. So their tails have not intertwined yet. but they appear to be definitely in the middle of a courtship dance. Well, we started off with this beautiful pair of ball pythons, and they didn't do anything too exciting. So then I actually paired up a pair of my Brooks king snakes, and they didn't do a whole lot. So then I went to corn snakes, and I was hoping if I put these two back in the rack together that they would hopefully make a love connection, but apparently it's gonna take some time. So I think we got some interesting footage with the corn snakes, and that was an attempt at snake breeding for you. Hope you guys like this one. Let me know if you'd like to see more like this, and I'll see you guys soon.